Welcome everybody to the Montana Business Vlog here, our video blog out on YouTube. It's also on the Silverman Law Office website. So thank you for joining us today. Today, this is an amazing interview that we're going to have here from a very humble man, Burke Moran. Burke is the owner of the Rib and Chops, which are located in 3 locations in Montana: Livingston, Billings, and Butte, and have other locations in Montana. And we're going to get Burke telling you all about this. Burke, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Burke, let's get right into it. Why the restaurant industry?
Why not? So I grew up in the restaurant industry. It's been part of my blood all my life. My dad opened his first restaurant when I was 7 years old, and I've been around it all my life. And in the early 1990s, I came back and I ran one of his restaurants called TJ Ribs. And TJ was located in Baton Rouge. And by the time I left, we were the largest single unit rib restaurant in the country. And so I knew my talents. I knew I could do the restaurant business, and I was ready for a change. So I decided to move to Montana. And Greg Gianforte and a gentleman named Jeff Honeycomb fortunately gave me a job at Right Now Technology. So I got into the technology side of the world because the .com was going nuts. After about 3 months, when I figured I couldn't turn a computer on and couldn't keep going, I decided that I needed to get back in the restaurant industry. And luckily, a restaurant in Livingston, Montana came available, which was owned by Mike Art from Chico Hot Springs. And he basically, I think he backed me. He never tell me he did or not, but he backed me and got me into his location, and we started Montana's Rib and Chop House in 2001.
So you were born and raised in the South, right?
Born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Okay, so what gets you to Montana?
To see a different part of the world. And I knew through my travels throughout the years that the people of Montana were just as polite as they were in Baton Rouge and just as friendly. And so I knew that I could probably strike up a great rapport with people in Montana, just as I did in Baton Rouge, because you can be friends with anybody in Baton Rouge. And that's what I feel about Montana. And I feel very fortunate to be here and be welcomed, which was great.
Now, you had family trips you used to take, right? Your mom would take you. Would your dad go on the trips too? Or how would these family trips come about?
Well, my dad was in the restaurant industry, and he was constantly opening up restaurants. And so he was never with us except for just maybe he would fly in for a week or so. But we would take trips either up the West Coast, the central United States, the East Coast, the central east side of the United States. And in 1976, we went up to Montana and Jackson Hole. And right then, I knew I was in the right place. Something called me, and I think "Go West, young man" came to fruition for me. And 1976 to 2000, it took me 24 years, 24 years to finally get here, and I finally got here.
So now, what you said, Montana and Wyoming. What got you to lead you into Montana first?
I love Wyoming, but I went up the west side of Wyoming in 1997 through Rock Springs up to Yellowstone National Park, and I said, it's a little windy out here, and there's way too many. There's no trees, and so we got to Yellowstone, and then we headed off into. As we left, we headed off into Bozeman just as a pit stop, and I saw Bozeman and immediately knew that Bozeman was the place I wanted to live, and that was it. Hook, line, and sinker, Bozeman became the city that I wanted to spend the rest of my life in. It was amazing.
Excellent. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, I've got 4 sisters and a great mother, and my father just recently passed away, and he was just a hard-working restaurateur. He was also a great businessman, spent a lot of his time in those restaurants working to make sure they all worked at all times, and he put a great office together, put a great infrastructure together. And so with that, I learned how to be able to run about up to 15 stores. And that's where we're at right now. And through his mentorship, that's where I'm at. And so our next step is to open up 10 more restaurants in the next 5 years, but we're going to need help. So we've recently recruited Let Us Entertain You out of Chicago to help us hold our hands and consult us along the way for those next 10 restaurants. My sisters are not in the business. One's a lawyer and the rest 3 are homemakers. And then my mom has just been a big support for us since day one. She's a wonderful woman. She lives down in Florida, and she's been great. Been supportive since day one.
And you're married, correct?
I am. I'm married. I've got a great wife. She started the restaurant. She moved up here with me. She started in the restaurant industry she and I started the restaurant together in Livingston, Montana, and we literally killed ourselves for the first 7-8 years so we can get the restaurants up and running. During those first 7 years, we opened up Billings, we opened up Cody, and we opened up Sheridan, and all of them were very profitable, and that's what gave us the idea that, hey, this thing could go not nationwide, but we felt it could go territorial. We felt it could go all throughout the Northwest. And so our concept was to open great restaurants in exceptional small towns across the Northwest. We call it flyover states now because people don't take these states very serious, but we love them, and all people need to eat, and all people need good restaurants. And so we feel like that's our vision.
You have a couple kids.
We have 2
Tell
boys.
us a little bit about them.
We have 2 boys, one 8 and one 10. Both love basketball, love football, love LSU athletics, love Montana State. And just starting to like Wyoming. We just opened a restaurant in Laramie. Just started to understand the Pokes, and they enjoy what they do, and they want to be. Unfortunately, they want to be in the restaurant industry. And I keep telling them they're going to be there one day. Just let's enjoy our lives first for a little while before they jump into that.
Now, I want to make sure I heard you correct. LSU, correct? Not
LSU.
MSU, and we're not putting MSU down,
Not
but
at all. No,
you're
no,
a Southern boy.
We love MSU. We have season tickets to basketball and football, but LSU is where I learned everything about sports, and LSU is everything to me. We had a restaurant with our football coach Jared Donardo back in 1997. We opened it up, and of course he goes 3-10 the first year. And then, of course, the next year he goes 3-8 and he gets fired. And, of course, Nick Saban takes over. And so our restaurant got changed. And that was actually the exact time I moved up to Montana because we didn't believe Nick Saban would be a very good coach for LSU. Silly me.
Yeah. So with your boys, a lot of times we hear in the business world, work-life balance. And I'm personally somebody who says work-life balance is BS because I believe everybody's work-life balance is different. Mm-hmm. What does work-life balance mean to you, and how do you achieve that?
Work-life balance to me means it's family first. It was always business first, and I spent the first 20 years inside the industry giving 100% to work. Nothing meant more than working. I built my reputation off working 16 hours a day with absolutely no problem. That's just the way it was. And then the first boy was born, Thomas. And when he was born, I said to myself that I don't want to live a life like my father lived, having to work so hard to be able to support his family. So we were able to put a team together of operators and of general managers and of accountants and human resource folks. And that team is actually better than me. I found out that team's better than me. I found out that they believe in the concept as much as I do. And so they allowed me to put family first. For the first time in my life, I was able to put that first over business. And I felt very fortunate. And so that is exactly where we are right now.
So what are some of the keys to you about putting the right team together so that you could do the things you wanted to do?
Is it the right team, or is it finding the great out of the right person? And I think that's kind of where we went. We went after finding people who had desire to be in the business, who loved the business, and then we worked with them. We cleared the road for them, and we said, we're going to make you great. Or how about this? You have a chance to be great. And we did everything we could to get that out of them. And the ones that don't want to be great, they fall. You immediately sense it. But the ones that want to be great, they're there for almost a lifetime. They've been with us a long time, and we do 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plaques. I never thought I'd ever hand out a 10-year plaque. I never thought I'd hand out a 15-year plaque. Now I got to hand out 20-year plaques this year. So with that said, is finding the great in people has been our biggest success. And you can take a person, and they can specialize in human resources, and you can put them into operations. And if you give them the right tools, they'll be great in operations. You just have to give them a chance, and that's our number one thing: giving them a chance.
So what are some of the tools you do use to make people great?
A lot of motivation. We totally believe in culture. Culture is a big part of our world. We believe culture is an accumulation of habits. And we think that if we constantly preach and practice habits at all times, we think that our people will move forward with it. If they don't buy in, well, I'm sorry, then you're going to just buy your way out of a job or get your way out of a job. But if you buy in, and if you understand the culture, and you accumulate your habits, and you teach and you preach your habits for everybody below you and everybody above you, life becomes pretty easy. And I'm just going to give you an example that when we opened up a restaurant in Butte, Montana, because we have so much culture in Montana, We were able to open that restaurant absolutely not one hitch along the way. It was beautiful because we opened the restaurant through culture. We go down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we have 3 restaurants down there. We're opening up our 4th one, and we didn't have the culture set in stone. There wasn't enough habits of how to open restaurants. And that restaurant was a struggle from the second that we got down there because we were battling people nonstop on how to do things properly. And within 6 months, we knew this restaurant just might not make it. And we've been struggling with the restaurant ever since. And the Butte restaurant does just fine. We're extremely happy with it.
Can you give me a specific example of that so that our audience says, oh wait, now I get what he's saying about the culture and the habits that were a struggle?
Sure. Our people in Butte, Montana knew what's required for them to make sure to open a restaurant. They knew that it's going to be a 16-hour day. They know that it's going to be 7 days a week. They know that they got to hire the right people so they can make their job as easy as possible. They know that they have to be in front of the game. They have to be prepared at all times for the influx of people, for the influx of food, for the influx of prep that takes place. And in Baton Rouge, they thought they worked 9 to 5. They thought that, we only had 3 people hired today, that's okay. No, we need to hire an average of 10 people a day during our hiring process. They thought that the food order was no big deal. They just did it on a wing. They thought that the liquor order was no big deal. They didn't give people, we call them AORs, a certain AORs to make sure that everybody had an assigned task along the way. And we didn't have that set up. And when you don't have that set up and we weren't out in front of it, well, we walked into a disaster. And it was a battle between the people from Montana and the people from Baton Rouge to be able to get together and finally make that work. And it was a tough road. And Baton Rouge struggled mightily, and Butte, we opened up and had no problems because we were always out in front of our issues.
So real quick, what's AOR stand for?
Areas of responsibility.
Okay, so with these AORs, do you feel like the difficulties in Baton Rouge were because you and your team weren't prepped for it? So you didn't give them the AORs as detailed as maybe Butte? Or in reflecting back on it, what was really the big difference there?
So our general manager in Butte is a culture warrior for us. That's what we call the people that believe in culture the most. And so when we went to Baton Rouge and we opened up the restaurant, our general manager at the time, we figured that they were the same as culture warriors, didn't know what an AOR would do for her. She felt that it was important that she could run every aspect of the restaurant, not realizing that she had, $120,000 a week of business coming in. And so every day, maybe 2-3 times a day, we'd ask her, where are your AORs for your assistant manager? Where are your AORs for your assistant managers? Because you can't do this whole job by yourself. And she never gave them to us, no matter how much we asked. Finally, Rory, who runs the company, he came in, gave her AORs, but she didn't believe in them. She didn't think that this would work because she felt that the other managers weren't as good as her. And so with that said, is that she's trying to take on this entire task herself with a full management team. Well, when the doors open and $120,000 worth of business is coming through a week, you can't do it all. And she quickly discovered that, but by then it was too late. And we couldn't get caught back up.
So I'm going to throw a little curveball here
Sure.
in the conversation. We've been talking a lot about business, a lot about culture. You are clearly a very passionate person about culture and business.
Sure.
What personal passions do you have?
What personal passion I have?
Yeah.
My passion is my kids. My passion is my wife. My passion is the business. I have 3 loves in my life, and it's my kids, my wife, and my business. And that's what I care about the most. And if I had to get very specific when it comes to business, my passion is to never have a complaint. And I think that's Pollyanna thinking. But the truth is, when we're now talking to Let Us Entertain You to be a consultant for us to help us get to this next level that we're trying to get to. They're a big restaurant chain out of Chicago. And I told them that I never want to have another complaint from a guest, from a customer or an employee. And they said, we can make that happen. And that's my passion. If we can get to that point, I know that every person's satisfied. If I know that every employee's happy, I feel like I'm done. I've done everything I want to do. Is it going to be easy? No. Right now we have about a 94% success rate inside of our business for the customers that come to the door. I know I want it to be 100, and that's my goal.
That's fantastic. So now you, your wife, your boys are about to go on a vacation.
We are.
And what do you like to do outside of work with your boys and your wife? Do you ski? Do you like to travel? What is it?
Okay. Yes, we like to ski. We have We have a place in Big Sky. We ski every weekend. We have tournaments every week, almost every weekend in basketball. They play basketball. A lot of football. A good bit of traveling. We try to take them on a month long summer vacation so they can see different parts of the country. So I want them to be able to see what I saw growing up and allow them to make their choice of where they can live and where they can prosper in their future. I don't want them to be. They love Bozeman, but I want them to see other things. And I think the world has a lot to offer. And so these trips that we take every Thanksgiving internationally, I'm letting them see what else is out there. And they have been counting down this trip because they had so much fun the year before and the year before. They can't wait to see what they're going to find out and discover this year.
So you just said that you're going to take your kids on a month-long trip every year.
Every year we take, and in the summer, we take them on a month-long trip around the country.
A lot of business people are going to say, I can't do that. What allowed you to get to that point?
I was asked a question about 7 years ago by Rory Sandoval, and he said, what are you going to be in charge of? And I said, I am the only one in charge of operations. And he said, then why am I here? I said, if I can't be 100% in charge of operations, then you and I are going to cross swords way too much. And Rory said, and then I need to leave. And I said, then you take all your operations and you can take it. And Rory's a smarter man than me. And so when I saw that, I saw how much increase in sales we had, and I saw how much better our compliments were coming through and how much better our customer satisfaction was coming through, I decided that Rory was the right person for the job. Since then, we've hired Chris O'Brien, who's been fantastic. He is a road warrior, and he can lead people to the end of the earth. And so we put a team together inside this office, Colleen Smith, my wife, we put a team inside this office that they're better than me. So why do I need to get in their way? I'm 50 years old. I've been doing this for 30 years. And the thing is it's time for these younger guys to step up and prove me wrong and do better. And they are. And I've been very impressed. I'm totally honored to be a part of their team. That's how I feel.
That's fantastic. So how long ago was it that you were finally able to kind of break free of the business and start taking some of these trips?
About 2 years after my son was born, actually it was longer than that, it was 4 years after my son was born, so 2012, so I took my first real vacation and we went to Florida for 2 weeks, and I hadn't seen the beach in 30 years. So it was like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the beach, I have my foot in the water, I don't know what to do. So it was wonderful. And I got back, and we did have some rough spots when I got back. We had a restaurant that we had just opened, it was starting to fail, and some people paid the piper for that one. But we got it back up and running, and we have since been pretty successful since. So how long have I been taking these trips? Since 2012. And it's almost mandatory due to the fact that you've got to rest your brain and rest your soul. If not in this business, as we all know, as you get older, you've got to take a break. You've got to take some time off. And this is when I do my reading. This is when I do my vision for what's going to happen for the following year. This is when I have all my ideas and thoughts that are going to be brought back to the restaurant and how we're going to grow and how we're going to grow properly. And that's what those vacations are for. So as much as they sound like vacations, they really are a working vacation for me to be able to get a plan together for the next 6 months to a year.
And what led you to saying, I need this month off?
What led me to my kids, and then second of all, Rory, and knowing how competent he was and how much better he did without me around, and the great decisions that he was making without me around. And I thought that was, it's very impressive to watch someone of Rory's capacity. Rory's a Michelin-trained chef, first of all, not a businessman. But we found out that Rory is actually a businessman, not a Michelin-trained chef. Even though he is a chef, don't get me wrong, I'm not ever downplaying his food. But he's much more of a businessman than he is. And that's one thing. How do you get great out of people? Give them the chance. Give them the opportunity. Plow the road for them. Do the things that it takes to get this out of people. And that's what I think we've done. We are a homegrown company. Most of our general managers are all general managers and managers are all from within. And the ones that come on board, usually have to fight their way to make a difference. And most of them fail due to the fact that they don't want to fight that hard. They don't want to break. They don't want to understand the culture. They want to fight the culture. Well, if you want to get on board, you want to make good money. If you want a future, join us. But understand what we do. and understand the culture, because that's the most important part.
Well, my next question was going to be, what is something unique that you've done in your business? But I kind of feel like you just gave it to me.
Well, I mean, the most unique thing that we do inside of our business is that we take our people, and it can be anywhere from the lowest level position to the highest level position, and we try to get the best out of them. And I know there's going to be people that could see this and say, oh, that's not what they did for me. Well, did you buy in? You know, were you the one that decided that this was for you? Is this the career that you wanted? I've got an example down in Laramie, Wyoming happening right now, and she is perfect for this business. She just hasn't given 100% commitment to it. Right, but when she does, when she gets older than 21 years old, she's going to realize that this business is for her. She's going to make more money than all of her friends. She's going to have more knowledge than all of her friends, and she's going to be a true business person in her community quickly. And she just hasn't made the commitment yet. And so she's a great experiment for what's going on.
Now, this person's clearly very young, but you see something in this person that you don't see in other people her age or in her group. What is that you're seeing?
It took seconds to recognize it in her. You just see it. You just see it. Can they communicate? Do they have the passion? Do they are they funny? Can they make people laugh? Can they do the work? Can they are they going to dedicate themselves? And right now, I don't want to mention her name, but she's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. She she has a dog. She has a boyfriend. Those things are the most important thing to her right now. But the truth is that when you make more money, you want more money, right? When you do better and you get more compliments, you want more compliments. When you have more power in your community, you want more power in your community. And this person has it all to offer. And she's 21 and doesn't know that she wants it right now. But we'll get her there. We're hoping. We're hoping.
So in business, family, life, we all run into challenges. It's running a business can sometimes feel very lonely. Because you're the person at the top. How do you get through those days when you hit that struggle, hit that wall where you feel like you're the only one?
You're reading my mind? Or do we all have that same problem?
Right, we all have it.
What do? I just hope for the next day. And because I know that things don't crash and burn in one day inside the restaurant industry. We can see trends that are coming along, and we know when they're coming, and we try to warn them and try to get out in front of them, and we stop them that way. But sometimes we're not there quick enough, and some things will fall apart. But I know that I have the faith and the confidence inside of our people, and inside myself, and inside of my wife, that we can pull through it. A prime example, we're having a problem with one restaurant. Rory gets in his car, drives 9 hours down to one restaurant within one day. One day. We got more compliments in one day than we've gotten in 1 month. Just from Rory being there. The quality of food went up, the morale went up in the servers, and all this went up. So now he's got to motivate the general manager to get back to where he was a month ago. And so that's what we try to prevent. And when it gets really rough, you just cross your fingers, because you know tomorrow's going to be a better day. And if it's not, you better get it fixed real fast. So that's how we look at it.
Excellent. You've mentioned your wife several times.
Yes.
She's involved in the business, right?
Very much so.
Okay, so I'm shifting my question now. How do you balance your marriage and work in the same place, and you can still show up at home and she lets you in the house, right? I mean, because I've always said in my world, if my wife and I worked together, there's no way my wife would stay married to me.
My wife's a wonderful person, and we have a wonderful marriage. And we used to share a desk. So on top of going home, waking up together, going to work together, we shared a desk together. Then we go home at the same time together. Then we deal with the kids until 9 o'clock at night. There's never an issue. I don't know why people have issues. So for me, it's no issue at all. I feel very fortunate to be in her life, and I don't know if it's vice versa, but we get along real well. And she's helped me build this business, and so I owe her a lot. If it wasn't for her, I don't know if we would be here.
So maybe what we need to do is interview her after she sees this and get a little feedback from her.
She's never going to change her mind on anything. So I don't know what her feedback would be, but it might be X-rated. So no, she's a wonderful person. Very fortunate to have her.
So for you and your wife then, because early on it sounds like you worked your tails off, both of you, as you were building the business,
Yes.
then you have kids.
Yes.
But before you have kids, you had to do something to keep the marriage going, right? Otherwise, the marriage becomes very difficult if it's just all work. How did you take little bits off and take time out for each other?
We took one day a week off, and we spent it with each other. I mean, it was great just to drive up to Boulder, and we both sit on a rock and fish, and just talk about the business and talk about our future. For our wedding, we got married on a Friday. Saturday we took off with all of our friends, getting them back on the plane. And Sunday, I was a steak cook and she was the expediter. And, that's just the way life's been. We've known that work has been most important to us until the kids came along. We knew the work was the most important part, and we knew we had to do to make sure we're pleasing the customers and making sure our employees had jobs, making sure we were able to cover payroll. That's life, and that's business. And we fortunately, after she had Thomas. Thomas was 3 weeks old, and we opened up in Billings on a Sunday night, and she was there running the restaurant. We had our nanny on the patio rocking the baby, and I was working the expo line. And we did that for another year, and then Michael was born. That's when we kind of decided to get out. And at the same time, Rory handed me the piece of paper and said, "What am I going to do, and what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm operations, and I'm the only one in operations." And Rory said that I need a job, but I knew he was too talented to let him go. So I said, "Here you go, Rory, you can take it." And he ran with it. And he totally changed our company right after that. He totally changed our company.
That's fantastic.
For the better. Much better.
That is so great. So what are some of the things today, and the easy answer is going to be my kids and my wife on this, but what are some of the things that keep you centered in your day-to-day life?
My kids' sports. High sales. A lot of compliments, waking up in the morning knowing that we promoted an assistant manager who now just is fully bought in. Seeing new people come on board with our company, and they're just so excited to be here. They can't believe they got a job at the Chop House. I'm like, it's just a job. But the thing is that they're actually buying into the culture. That's what keeps me centered. It's family and work. I mean, are the two things I know in life. I don't know anything else. My dad never knew anything else. I don't know anything else. I'm hoping that I can work hard enough to be able to give my kids the opportunity to see more and be able to enjoy more. But I think they're just like me. I think they're going to dive right into work immediately. And I think they're going to. I think family will come later. So I'll be a grandfather when I'm 82. But I'll be fine. But we'll see. I think working family. That's all I know.
So the neat stories about your marriage, having kids newborn, and your wife's rocking them while she's working in the kitchen. What are some challenges? What are some deep challenges you've had in the business world, and what were some of the things that helped you get over those?
That's quite a question there. I don't know if there's been a lot of deep challenges. I think we've been so preventive over everything. I think I'm more of a survivalist, and I think that we've tried to get out in front of everything that's coming our way. We know that October, November, December rolling around in Montana, and everybody knows our business is cut by a third, and we have to be able to prevent. And that's what we're doing. I don't know if there's a lot of deep challenges. I think the one that's coming up right now is at Colorado Springs. They don't know us. And here we are asking for money in Colorado Springs. They're like, who are y'all? Why am I going to give money to some country folks up in Montana? And so now we got to prove our story again. Where in Montana we can go in and basically they'll write us a check, fortunately, very fortunate. And I think that's a big challenge right now is as we try to grow into these bigger states that don't know us. I think that's our biggest one. I don't really think that there's a bunch of issues out there. I think that we're pretty fortunate with the employees. I don't think they're out to get us. I think that they're happy to be part of the team. Outside there's some outside things that are popping up, but nothing that we can't handle or didn't prepare ourselves for. So I don't really, not even talking about it with you, I just don't think that there's a lot that's out there that's really keeping me up at night.
Excellent.
And I feel very fortunate for that. The whole thing might crash and crumble one day, but I think we did the best we could to make sure we kept it afloat.
So the number one complaint of business owners is employee issues, right? You seem to have a lot of this minimized through your culture. What are some of the most key takeaways you can give our audience about culture that can help them with employee issues?
Well, the first thing to do is prepare for the issue. So I have it timed down. I have it timed down to the day of when employees quit and when employees want to be hired. And so we call it Hiring Palooza and we call it Black Sunday. And so we know when those are coming, so we're always preparing for those days. And so we spend a good bit of money to make sure we get employees in there. February 23rd is one of them, to get ready for the summertime. And we start hiring then. And then we know when Black Sunday's coming, so we start preparing July 23rd for August 8th, because we know there's going to be another, employees going back to school and other things. With that said, it depends on how well our general managers are bought in with us for the culture. And the ones that are buying in with the culture are going to want a future with us. So just to give you an idea, we have hot schedules, and hot schedules allows us to send out surveys to every employee. And so Chris, our director of operations, vice president of operations, he sent out a survey, and it said, who wants to continue their future with FRG, Finally Restaurant Group, that's the name of our company. And 83% of our employees said they wanted to continue our future with them. We know they want it, but not many people want to stand up and say, hey, I want a management position with you, because peer pressure, brown nosing, whatever you want to call it, they don't want to do it. So we just have to find those right ones and discover who they are. So that's what we're doing right now. Hourly employees is going to be tough. It's tough everywhere. I don't think it's been as bad. We have had it as bad as other places. Our culture warrior down in Baton Rouge, Nicole, she couldn't find an employee when she first got there for the first month. But then, you tell her, use what you know. You're a culture warrior. Now she has a full staff. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, nobody has a full staff. She has a full staff, and they are all happy. They want to be there, and they fight to be the best. And that's what Nicole brings along. So she's just another example of restaurants that are doing well. The ones that are struggling, usually it's just due to burnout, because they work so hard during the summertime. I mean, it is like we call them LSU football games. It's like getting your feet are just totally exhausted after working from 11 to 11. Nonstop waiting on tables. I mean, if I wait on one table, I'm like, that's enough. They wait on 20, 30, 40 tables, and imagine that. So, and they have to have a different personality at each table, because they have to bring their A game to each table. So, the culture part of it is just the accumulation of habits that they learn to be able to perfect their job perfectly. And if they're not going to buy in, those are going to be the ones that are not going to survive.
Culture is an accumulation of habits.
That's what it is.
Give me one example of that.
An accumulation of habits?
Yeah.
I can probably give you 100, but accumulations of habits is how do you approach a table? How do you recognize how to speak to somebody at a table? So we teach them how to identify somebody's phone case, and look at their phone case and say to themselves, what can you start talking about with this person? And right then, that breaks the ice immediately. They can talk to this person about their phone case, and all of a sudden, dad will start talking, mom will start talking, the daughter will start talking, and they'll have actually a family interaction. Accumulation of habits is I make my salads with 2 cups of salad mix. I don't make it with 3, I make it with 2, so I don't run food costs out of control. We cut our steaks to 15 to 16 ounces. We don't cut our steaks to 13 ounces because we don't want to rip off the guests. We don't cut them to 18 ounces because then we can't cook it properly, because it won't cook as well. Those are the kind of habits that we have. And then inside of our managers, they have an admin Monday, which is an 8-hour shift of them doing nothing but the reporting and the cleanliness evaluations and the training seminars and all the other things that's going to take to make sure that we're running perfectly for the next week.
Excellent. So let's do a shift here, and let's talk technology.
Okay.
Technology is so disruptive in so many worlds. We've seen it with Lyft and Uber coming in. Earlier we were talking about how technology allows you to analyze data. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, how that's really changed how your workforce handles the restaurant business?
Well, I'll give you a prime example. So for years, and when we were very profitable, was when we had a restaurant software called Restaurant Magic. Rory and the staff worked their tails off to be able to get this up and running. So what Restaurant Magic does, it's our accounting software, but it also allows us to have actual versus theoretical. So we could go into a restaurant and we could say, okay, your theoretical states that you should have used 2.5 pounds of ribeyes last night, and instead you used 2 3/4 pounds. So we're missing 3/4 of a pound of a ribeye. That's how detailed it gets. So that's one thing. So then we got the wise idea 2 years ago because we were so full of ourselves, right? We're making money and we're ready to make some changes, which we should have never done. But what we did is we got a software that did employee onboarding, we did a software that did our paychecks, we did a software that did our accounting, we did a software that did our actual versus theoretical, and none of them spoke. None of them spoke. So we flew blind last year in 2017. We flew blind for about 10 months, and we had no reporting. And so I went out with Rory, and we went and tried to find an IT guy. We were willing to spend it. The salary is from $90,000 to $120,000 to find the IT person. Couldn't even find an IT person to try to make these softwares communicate. So Chris and Rory and Ashley and Melissa and Natalie, and there's a bunch of people Colleen in our office that are trying to make these all work. And so we're almost to the point to make them all work. But we're back to where we were in 2016, where we were making a 5 to 10% bottom line. And so with that said is that the reporting comes to me, the actual versus theoretical goes to the operators, the onboarding goes to our HR department. So we're completely legal with every person that comes on board, and they all talk to each other. And it's taken Rory and Chris a long time to get to that point. But what it's done is totally changed our world. So now I don't have to go inside the restaurant. I can tell exactly what's going on inside a restaurant just by my reporting. And I can tell, and then we get a cleanliness reporting from admin Monday. There's still manual labor, don't get me wrong, but we get all this reporting, it comes into us on Mondays, and we can see exactly where they're at. And then, of course, there's going to still be the manual part where Rory and Chris and other operators are on the boots on the ground and making sure that they are not lying, making sure that they are doing their cleanliness evaluations up to par, and making sure that they're entering their inventories properly. So we have that actual versus theoretical, which is dead on. Cheyenne, we noticed 2 years ago that the actual versus theoretical was about 10, 15 pounds apart. We put a lock on the back door, a panic bar on the back door, and all of a sudden it came down immensely, and all of a sudden our profitability went from zero that previous month to $30,000 next month. That's how quickly you can change them. And that's where we say preventive is more important than anything.
So with that, what is, for example, a way in which you can measure client satisfaction? Are you using technology to do that? And if so, how? Very
much so. So Rory just brought on a software called Tattle. So what Tattle does is when you enter our building, you're going to automatically get inundated with a survey. And you don't have to enter the survey when you walk in the door, but you can fill the survey as you're leaving. So that's one way. We have another thing on our table tents. It's called text the manager. So if you have an issue, you can text the manager immediately. The manager will go right to your table and can solve your problem. But 99% of them are compliments. They want to talk about how great it is, or how great their experience is, how fantastic their server is. And so we make sure we tell the server, we tell the cooks, hey, table 21 wants to tell you how wonderful you all are doing. Thank you very much. We have surveys, and then they go onto the website. There's 3 or 4 other things that we have. We have 8 ways to be able to interact with the customer without having to actually, through technology, having to actually go to their table and say, hey, how you doing? But our goal is to make sure our managers touch every table also. So we have the 8 technological ways of interacting, but we also have our manual way, which is most important, is saying hello at the desk, at the table.
That's pretty phenomenal.
But it's very important that we make sure that we're not letting anybody leave the restaurant being disappointed. And what disappoints me the most is that when we pick up a check because the food was bad, and we feel terrible because we have 100% food and service guarantee. So if they come in the restaurant and it's bad, we will pick up the check. All you gotta do is tell us. So if they tell us about, we'll say, sorry, we'll take it off the bill. But the ones that disappoint us are the ones that we do everything we can to make sure they're happy as they're leaving the door, and then they go online and blow us up and talk about how bad the experience was, even though we picked up the bill. But to each his own. Everybody's a food critic right now because the food channel has taught us how to be that. But it's okay. It's just part of our world.
Mm-hmm. So do you have a way then that you take all the positive that you're getting? You've mentioned that your managers then go tell the employees, the cooks, the chefs, the line staff, right? But how about getting that same positive attitude out to your customers?
I don't know if the same positive attitude is just their mentality when they walk in the door, the employees. I don't think that if they send a great text if an employee sends a great text to the managers, I don't think that we're going to go over there and comp their meal and high five them and do that kind of stuff. I don't know if I exactly understand what you're talking about, but we're going to do the best we can to make sure we thank them. We're going to walk over there and we're going to introduce ourselves and say thank you for the compliment, and then we spread their praise throughout the restaurant too.
I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of companies, a lot of restaurants that I see, they're just relying upon Yelp or Google reviews. Are you doing anything special where you're able to take the reviews you're getting in the restaurant and then being able to show them out to the rest of the world?
No, we do not. What we do is we share them inside of our restaurant only, and then if it's a complaint, we pick up their check. With the Yelps and the Googles and the TripAdvisors, we don't know their names. We don't know how to find them. So we don't really offer or try to combat them or actually try to confront them in a sense. I don't want to sound combative, but we don't try to confront them. We let them stay up there as long as possible. So hey, it's our fault. We made the mistake. So I've had marketing company after marketing company come to me and say, well, just have your employees post replies about your restaurant. I'm like, no. We have to earn our customers' respect. We can't have anything false up there. So those we'll share with our managers and our employees if they're good and or bad. Those Yelp, those outside review sites, we'll share them, but we really don't do anything with them. The customers that contact us directly or contact us through our website, those are the ones that we offer 100% food guarantee.
We're going to do another shift. Let's get back to you a little bit, Burke, as a business person, which of course you hate. But you and I earlier were talking about some books. Culture being so huge, you had mentioned a few books to me that your team has read. What are those books? Why did you have them read them? What did that help you guys accomplish?
Well, to our beginning managers, we always hand out the 1 Minute Manager. We always hand out those type of books that are out there. As they get more advanced into our company, we start reading books like the Good to Greats. We start reading the Malcolm Gladwell books, which I think are all fantastic because he takes the most boring subject under the sun and makes them interesting. The one I just read recently was The Captain's Class, which was fantastic because it talks about it wasn't leadership that made these teams great. Out of the 8,000 teams he studied, only 16 made the Captain's Class. It was communication. And so we try to pinpoint what works. We love Shoe Dog. Rory loved Romancing the Balance Sheet, which I can't imagine anything more boring, but my gosh, he loved it, and he's quoted it over and over and over. So there's so many books that are out there that we read. It's and every single one of them has a different aspect of our business. But you can tell some of them you pick up, and within a few minutes this isn't going to fit our culture, and so we'll put those down. But we have a library actually inside of our restaurant. You can see as you walk out the door, we have a library of our cookbooks and of our philosophical books and of our architecture books that we try to look at and help us grow our business. Because as you know, in Montana, we don't have a big group of people to feed off of, so we have to basically feed off ourselves and other restaurateurs, which we're all trying to struggle to survive.
Now, my wife's a big foodie, so give me 2-3 cookbooks that would be at the top of your list.
My favorite one is by a gentleman who just joined our company, Peter Sclafani. He has one. It's all Southern cooking. It's called The Four Seasons of Louisiana, and it's crawfish, oysters, shrimp, and crawfish, shrimp, and I forget the other one, crab. And so those are one of our favorite ones. We love Thomas Keller books, but the problem with Thomas Keller is he's so difficult to understand from somebody from my aspect. Because when you look at, I'm sure as you have, when you look at a recipe, you have to be able to interpret it, and you have to be able to interpret it perfectly. And so if it's not perfect, if you can't interpret it, you might as well just throw it away because Thomas Keller is so above our heads. But we like to read his, the Hudson on the Bend. It's an Austin cookbook. We have a couple recipes from him, which have been fantastic. We have a couple restaurant. I can't name the names of them. We have a couple of their cookbooks, which have been fun. So there's I think everyone that you can think of, Michelin star, just high in popularity, are out there in our library. But Hudson on the Bend's a good one because it's spice. They combine the Texas spice because that's at the restaurant of Austin. They take the Texas spice and make it very southwestern, and it's fantastic. So
excellent. All right, so now here's a big one. Your business has been exploding in growth and popularity. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years. Our goal, our vision is to grow 10 more stores. In 10 years, we want to be at 25 stores. Like I said, we've incorporated. We're asking Let Us Entertain You to join us, which they have 160 restaurants and 120 of them are different concepts. Can you imagine how hard that's got to be? So we've asked them to join us. They have a consulting firm inside there, and they basically consult you all the way through to these next 10 restaurants. And they give you everything from how to handle a customer cut or injury all the way up to how to ask for money from a bank. It's just amazing the literature that they give out. And so we want to open up 25 restaurants. We want to actually connect Montana down to Texas. We have a developer in Texas right now looking all over the state for us. He's got Tyler, Waco, San Marcos, and Denton identified for us. So the land is under contract. I don't know if we can pull it off. We're not big enough for that just yet because we have Butte, Bozeman, and Colorado Springs opening. But we just want to keep growing. We want to keep trying to spread our message, and we want to hopefully provide better and better food as we go down the line. So,
well, Burke, I know you want to get onto your vacation, so one last question.
No problem.
Here. What are some last parting words of wisdom to Montana businesses, any businesses out there that you would have for us?
Find your culture. I would say find your culture, find your accumulation of habits, find out what has worked for you in the past, get all your people to buy in. They will buy in because they believe in you, but get them to buy in and then preach them and make sure that they're in your daily conversations. This wall right here that we're going to have is going to be full of our not idiosyncrasies, but our words that we use to build our culture. It's going to be called our culture wall. But culture has become the most important part of our business. Culture controls training. Culture controls the excitement level, the atmosphere. Culture controls everything. Bill pay. It controls it all inside of our business, and that's why I highly recommend. So if there's a culture book for you to read, our culture book, our culture item to look up on the internet. The number one thing I recommend looking at is the Loyola Chicago, who went to the Final 8 last year. They lost. They had the woman in the wheelchair. Just read about him and read about what he's doing and watch a couple of his videos. He's been fantastic for us. But culture is how to grow your business. And that's what we're using.
Excellent, Burke. I really appreciate your time. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you for joining us today on the Montana Business Vlog. Please like us. Go to our website, Silverman Law Office at mttaxlaw.com. Like us there. Our videos are going to be there. We're going to have more great folks like Burke coming on. And Burke, hopefully we'll get to do this again in a year or two and see where you've gone.
Love to see where we're going.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.